what's going on, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Panel B Podcast, coming at you on a Monday. Hope you guys are ready to talk some football, because we certainly are. We got Julian Edlow, Steve Buchanan. I'm Alex Jankowski here. Obviously, a lot to unpack with what happened on Sunday. A lot of big storylines to get to. We'll also, obviously, preview Monday night. A not very exciting game, I'll be honest with you. But, hey, look, between sports betting and DFS, we can find some angles to talk about. I'm sure we're also going to recap how our picks did. We have a all-time stack that we're going to talk about, an NFL team. It was going to be a basketball team per the randomizer. We said no thank you. We want to just stick with NFL. Maybe we'll talk some baseball later on, but we'll see where we get to with that last week of the regular season. Very excited about that. But guys, football. I think we got to start with Daniel Jones proving the haters, myself included, wrong. I'm kind of interested, I want to get your thoughts. This is the second, as they all look just thrilled. Love that two-shot.
I'm looking at some stuff.
Nah, I gotcha. All right, so second straight year that, draft Twitter has really been down on a guy. Josh Allen last year, Daniel Jones this year. Both go out and somewhat have silenced the people. Do we need to kind of maybe not change, but at least amend the way that we evaluate guys?
Oh, so wait, you're telling me that Twitter was wrong? That's a first. I've never seen that one before.
After one game.
He looked phenomenal. There's really no other way to put it. He just brings a completely different dynamic to a Giants offense that they never had before. When he took that first rush, it was like, whoa. When have you seen...
That person's allowed to run?
But, he was good in tight windows. He had good pocket presence. He scrambled when he needed to. Just a lot to like about Danny Dimes. Only one game against the Buccaneers. Let's see how he... I will say, though, it really did show, I guess, his green... he showed how green he is still, because once Saquon Barkley was out of that game, they just started rushing the hell out of him, and he looked lost. Mm-hmm. I think it was during the second or third quarter where they just kept going at him, and he just couldn't get anything. His throws were all of a sudden offline, but he seemed to kind of regain his composure, looked a lot better, but I think that's something that they'll definitely need to work on moving forward. But again, it's the first game, Let's not get too nitpicky here.
A game they should have lost. Not like it matters. We would have looked at him the same way whether they win that game or lose that game.
Bruce Arians admitted that he took a penalty on purpose to make the kick farther, which then missed, which makes no sense. But we want to talk overreaction Monday. Danny Dimes plays one game. He is now well ahead of the field as the favorite for Rookie of the Year on DK Sportsbook at plus 200. So all you have to do is play a game and beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and guess what? You're the Rookie of the Year.
Meanwhile, Kyler Murray's throwing 80 passes a game.
Yeah.
Well, he's not winning, and he's not playing very well. Kyler Murray's second in line at plus 350. Kyler Murray, I believe, closed at plus 250 at the start of the season, so he's already gone down after 3 starts, going, what is he, 0-2-1. We expected probably some bigger numbers there, but he's throwing so much that he obviously has to stay alive. What would help Daniel Jones is the fact that Saquon's going to miss several weeks now with that high ankle sprain, and they're going to have to throw the ball because Wayne Gallman is not going to be able to carry the load at running back there.
Yeah, Kyler, who had to face the Lions and then the Ravens to start with, gets to see Daniel Jones go up against the Buccaneers. But you mentioned, too...
Easier times will come.
Yeah, overreaction Monday here. Giants, 3-point home favorites without Saquon next week as of now, up against the Redskins, who we don't yet.
Yeah.
These are always the tricky lines. This is kind of like how we get the main slate released before Monday Night Football is played, and then sometimes we can get a value play based on what happens on Monday Night Football. This is one of those places where if you think Washington's going to get crushed by the Bears on Monday night, and you like what you saw from the Giants, maybe you take the -3 now, because it could, if Washington doesn't look good against Chicago, which they're probably not going to look very good against that defense, that can easily balloon up to -4 by the end of the game. So it's something where you kind of got to take a stance and go early on it. Or if you feel the other way and you think it's overreaction on the Giants, but Washington's going to get killed by the Bears on Monday night, you wait and take Washington for more points after the game.
Another thing that I noticed too is that, and obviously the game was a little construed because Barkley was out, but Gallman only had 1 red zone carry the entire game. It was all Daniel Jones in the red zone, whether he was rushing or throwing. I don't think they have any faith in him at all. I don't want to say they're going to abandon the running game, but they're going to be a very pass-heavy team for whatever the 4 or 5 weeks that Barkley's out.
Well, it's one of those things where, Barkley plays all 3 downs and it's just, such a bell cow that he goes down and it's, wait, who else is on this team?
Right.
Who else has been working with the practice squad guys? So maybe with a week of preparation, things will open up a little bit up against the Washington Redskins defense.
That's probably Saquon the biggest potential injury that we could have in fantasy, just in terms of like the other guys that get that type of workload. Zeke, we know that we kind of like Tony Pollard, and Tony Pollard showed some stuff to us, whereas
TVP.
Yeah.
Tony very
the only other one is Christian McCaffrey, because he's playing literally all of the snaps and there's nobody behind him. It's Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley.
Nick Chubb did play all the snaps.
I was going to say, if there's a third person, it might be Nick Chubb.
Didn't really work out that well, but
that whole game didn't work out well.
Saquon's one of those guys that like there is no guy that mixes in. So this is going to be an interesting stretch.
Let's talk a little DFS top performers. A couple wide receivers going off yesterday. Mike Evans coming back. Heard a lot of that Chris Godwin talk and was actually priced below him, so he's worked out there. Keenan Allen just continues his tear. We go to Bukes here because Bukes had a little successful Sunday on the DraftKings side of things. So what was your key to success? Key to the green?
Yeah, I mean, the re-emergence of Evans was pretty helpful, and just the ownership really showed it. I mean, he's 6,600. When do you ever get Evans that cheap? And he was in a good matchup. I mean, it doesn't take brain surgery to figure out that the Giants secondary is almost non-existent. I mean, I pretty much rank him up there with the Eagles for some of the worst in the league. And Evans had to break out at some point. And, one-on-one coverage, Janoris Jenkins against Mike Evans, just brutal.
Yeah.
But I even said this to you this morning. He had that unbelievable first half, and then he just ghosted in the second half. He only had that one catch in the second half. I think it was for 45 yards or whatever, and set up what would have been the winning field goal that did not happen. But now we're going to kind of get into this thing where it's, okay, do you play Mike Evans or Chris Godwin? Because Evans not going to have this type of production every single week, and Godwin, at least for the first 3 weeks, have been the more consistent one up until this point. But it just all relies upon Jameis Winston because...
Well, let me help you with that question.
Okay.
Week 4 in Los Angeles against the Rams.
Neither.
You don't play Chris Godwin or Mike Evans, there, problem solved.
Easy one. Yeah, that's a good fade for week 4. But moving forward, I think that will be more of a issue as we go down the line.
Especially with, how much was Mike Evans? What did he get to last week?
He was 6,600 last
66.
week.
So now he's up $500 at 7,100 at the Rams. That's
What's
like
Godwin
a classic fade spot. Godwin, $6K.
Okay, so yeah, that is an easy fade because Aqib Talib, Marcus Peters have been in shutdown mode, at least in the early part of the season.
OBJ didn't do much on Sunday Night Football against them.
Nope.
I want no part of
I don't think anybody did much of anything actually yesterday.
Say that again?
I don't think really anybody did anything yesterday in that game.
Cooper Kupp was good.
Yeah.
Well, that's true. That's true. Very true.
I think Cooks was over 100.
Nick Chubb was good just based on volume.
Yeah.
And that was about it.
Yeah, and the Buccaneers also, ran the ball somewhat effectively, at least at what we'd expect out of them. Ronald Jones, 14 carries, 80 yards.
6 straight carries for Ronald Jones.
Barber had 13 for 48. I mean, I think with the quarterback, too, it is Jameis, and would always lean toward Evans, given that Jameis is a guy who's just going to chuck it up there. Evans is the one to go and get it, whereas Godwin's maybe a little bit more polished. But hey, look, O.J. Howard, 3 catches, 66 yards, too. Good to see. He still has a pulse as well. Outside of this game, though, we saw one of the big spreads get covered in the Cowboys going up against the Dolphins. That was the one I think we all kind of leaned on because we said, hey, look, the Jets are going to try at least a little bit. But that New England defense still has yet to give up a touchdown. It wasn't on them. What happened?
The Jets.
Yeah, let's talk about it, Julian. Let's hear it.
The Jets covering and going more notably over their team total that we talked about last week was a complete fluke. We were talking about the team total was set at 10.5, and we said, how are the Jets going to score more than 10 points in this game? We don't see them getting these points.
Answer?
And they didn't. But if there is an answer, it's that there will be a muffed punt that they fall on in the end zone, and the Patriots will make a boneheaded decision to pull Tom Brady, let the rookie throw a pick six, and then put Tom Brady back in the game. That's how fluky things had to get for the Jets to get this team total.
Okay, the non-degenerate take was that it was the right move to pull Brady. You don't need him in that game. Let the kid go in there and do something.
I mean, he made it by doing that. He made it a 2-score game in the fourth quarter. That's generally not a time that you.
Okay, so if you were not betting on that game, if you had nothing invested, would you have been upset that they pulled Brady?
Yeah, because
stop it.
Well, first of all, I didn't take the Patriots on the spread.
Oh,
I just took the Jets team total.
Fine.
And second of all, they just played all the way to the end in 43-0 against the Dolphins.
Stupid, which was stupid.
Nothing went wrong, and then you play, and Jarrett Stidham came in and made it a 2-score game in the fourth quarter. The Jets defense would have stopped Jarrett Stidham again. Now the Jets have the ball down, looking to make it a 1-score game with 6 minutes left in the game?
Mm-hmm.
That's not a spot you want to be in.
I still think it was fine.
It's fine because they won, but they
put
put Tom Brady back in the game because they knew if they put the rookie back in the game, hey, this could get to be a 1-score game.
Okay, so what if Brady gets hurt in that
What if
scenario?
he gets hurt at any time?
Yeah, but at least he's supposed to be out there. He should be out there.
He's supposed to be out there in a 2-score game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
All right, gonna have to pull the plug on this, fellas. Jets though 2100 got you 16 DK points. Jets DST.
That was a
little
shocking
shrewd
GPP
move,
play right there.
I realize that.
Needless to say, the lineup that won the Millionaire did not have the Jets.
Panthers though.
Panthers. Hey, and what's that? Is that a great transition? Because little news we got: Cam Newton already out this week.
Good.
Kyle Allen right back into it. Seems like one of those quick hooks there on Newton. Let's ride this Kyle Allen thing for a little bit longer. Some rumblings that it might be for a couple weeks. So let's see how things go. They're going to be at the Texans. They are 4.5-point dogs on the road against a Texans team that beat the Chargers, but still at least looks like they're going to have some issues protecting the quarterback as well. So how are we evaluating how Kyle Allen looked here and maybe this Panthers offense that's still very much going to run through Christian McCaffrey, but some of those guys on the outside might be a little bit more viable than they were early on this season?
Well, Kyle Allen definitely seems playable from a fantasy standpoint, even with going up from the 4,000 to the 5,200, because 5,200 is still a really solid discount as a road underdog against a Houston defense that isn't necessarily anything special against the pass at all. So I think Kyle Allen's very viable. He has 3 solid targets in DJ Moore, Samuel, and Olsen, as long as he's healthy, which he is at the time. McCaffrey obviously helps in all aspects, the run game and the pass game. So I like Kyle Allen. What I don't really know how to figure out, I can't really get a pulse on the Texans. They're such a weird team. And they could easily be 3-0 if they got that game in New Orleans. So we're talking about what could potentially be a really good team. It could potentially also be an 0-3 team if Gardner Minshew had been able to make a play rather than a handoff to Leonard Fournette in Week 2, a game that comes right down to the wire against the Chargers in Week 3. So the Texans are a team, one of those teams that I think could be 3-0, could be 0-3, and we don't know what they are. We know they have so many holes. We know they have such a capable offense with Watson and Hopkins. They're one of these teams that, from a DFS perspective, I guess we know what they want to do offensively, but from a betting perspective, I don't know how to gauge them.
Well, it sounds to me like a team that's going to probably win the AFC South, be a 4 seed, and then lose in the first game.
That very well could be.
I mean, to their credit, they've drawn some tough coverage the past couple of weeks. I mean, the Chargers, Casey Hayward, Jacksonville, Jalen Ramsey, who really Hayward and Ramsey. Yes, sick. Ferris Bueller was very sick too. Ramsey and Hayward, did really shut down DeAndre Hopkins. And we want to talk about an offense running through Christian McCaffrey. Kind of, Hopkins is kind of that for the Texans. It's kind of Hopkins and the rest of the crew. And then just couldn't get much going on the ground either. Carlos Hyde, non-factor. Duke Johnson, it's starting to look like he was almost better off with the Browns because you thought he was going to come over here and be this guy that was going to be a pass catcher out of the backfield. He's getting nothing. Like, Carlos Hyde doesn't take those plays away. You think that Duke Johnson would be that guy, just absolutely nothing. But I think the schedule starts to lighten up a little bit for the Texans. Then I think we can start to identify it. And I keep saying it every week, but they got to do something about that offensive line. They're not going to get at the offensive oven if Watson is constantly scrambling for his life because there's somebody in his face every single week. I think that's been their biggest detriment so far. But, the schedule starts to lighten up for them a little bit more within the next coming weeks.
Let's talk a little bit about the Baltimore-Kansas City matchup because I think that was one that was really interesting from a couple different ways. Obviously, two of the better teams, I'll just say two of the better teams in the AFC. Can't say two of the best, but two of the better. And I had a little bit of concern with the weather situation. It poured pretty much leading up to that game. Didn't really seem to slow the Chiefs down at all. And in what would be probably one of their stiffer tests, we continue to learn, just play everybody on the Chiefs. They're probably going to catch you a touchdown.
Yeah, and it's getting to the point now where it's, I think Julian and I were talking about this last week. It's just so hard to figure out who you want to pair Mahomes with. Like, I just rolled out Kelsey this week because, sure, why not? But, Hardman has been phenomenal. He only had 2 catches, but they went for 97 yards and a touchdown. Right. Sammy Watkins is back to being Sammy Watkins. He's been a disappointment now for, 3 straight weeks now? 2 straight weeks.
8 targets, though, still.
Yeah, he's getting the targets, but he's doing Sammy Watkins things, and he does nothing with the targets. He'll get them and nothing happens. Demarcus Robinson made that ridiculous one-handed catch. Like, that was his highlight reel for that one. But the biggest thing now is the running back situation. We saw that video of McCoy, or you may have seen that video of McCoy, like, limping into the stadium. Looked like he was in, like, the back alley somewhere, but limping into the stadium. And then ended up being, if it wasn't for that touchdown, Darrell Williams was like the best back of the bunch there. Darwin Thompson was a non-factor, which I was actually kind of surprised about.
Yep.
You expected
That's
this game.
another hashtag Twitter call.
Right. Yep. But it was a close game. You figure he'd get some work in the passing game, just almost a non-factor. It was actually kind of surprising. But, if there's a guy to own right now, Darrell Williams looks to be potentially the guy if Damian Williams, 2D Williams, it's amazing, is out again this week.
And on the other side, Julian, Lamar Jackson, Mark Ingram continue to account for more or less everything that the Ravens do offensively.
Yeah, and Lamar Jackson finally took a step back, which Patrick Mahomes hasn't done, which I think kind of clarified things a little bit for those people that were overhyping Jackson, saying these are, the 2 best fantasy quarterbacks. No, Mahomes is the best quarterback, and then Lamar Jackson can sit in tier 2 with a bunch of other guys. And yes, there's a notable gap there. Lamar Jackson didn't even throw a touchdown in this game. He ran one in. He had a decent fantasy game, 21.28 DK points. That's solid, but Mahomes got 30 again, and it's just at the point where if you have the space in cash games, because Mahomes is going to be the, if not one of the highest owned quarterbacks every week, you can just play him and you don't have to stack him with anybody because the targets could go anywhere, even without Tyreek Hill on the field. And like we talked about last week, if you do want to make stacks, hopefully you're somebody that's maybe making multiple lineups and can kind of mix and match some of those guys together over the course of a few lineups, because it's really tough to predict where the ball is going to go. And even if, like we said, Hardman has 2 catches, that can still be a big fantasy day because of how this offense works. So, yeah, Mahomes is definitely the more reliable of the two. If anybody was kind of getting ahead of themselves asking any questions coming into this weekend, Lamar Jackson's still going to be a great play moving forward. He's $6,900 on the Week 2 slate, which is the second highest priced guy behind only Mahomes by $600. So Lamar Jackson against Cleveland, Patrick Mahomes at Detroit. I'll spend the extra $600 any way that I can find it to get to Mahomes at Detroit. Detroit ranks 28th also in the early going in DK points allowed to the quarterback position. So
yeah,
seems kind of I like the hype on Lamar Jackson. I like Lamar Jackson. You got to love the rushing upside or floor that he always brings, but it's pretty clear after this week that Mahomes is the number one guy by himself.
Yeah, and pretty clear also if you're looking at the MVP race on DK Sportsbook. So you got Mahomes plus 160, Gap, Tom Brady plus 800, Aaron Rodgers plus 1100, Dak 120 to 1, Lamar then 160, Wentz Deshaun Goff. And then I'm just going all the way to get me to Russell Wilson at plus 2,500, who we knew, given the injury situation and the fact that Chris Carson is Petey and is killing me, cannot hold on to a football to save his life.
That hurt me a lot yesterday.
Russell Wilson finally going into hero ball mode, 44.34 DK points, threw the ball 50 times for 400 yards, 2 tutties, also ran 7 times, 51 yards, 2 touchdowns. That should be the scenario for Russell Wilson. That is his ceiling. That's why you're paying him the money. Just put him out there and let him go to work. Like it's so infuriating, the offensive philosophy there, when you've invested in a quarterback like this who can do this every single game. He's shown that he can do it every single game. So if you want any chance, and you want any chance on a little long shot MVP odds there, put him out and go do that.
I mean, to be fair, the Saints are so brutal against slot receivers. So this should have. I was actually surprised that Wilson Lockett wasn't talked about more, because we've just consistently seen, this even goes back to last year, the Saints just getting torched by slot receivers. And then we see it here with Tyler Lockett. 14 targets, 11 receptions, 154 yards, and a touchdown. Like, that connection should have been more talked about. And even I didn't really kind of catch on to it until later in the season. I'm sorry, later into the week. Because I think there was so much focus on guys like Josh Allen and such that we kind of forgot about Wilson in this matchup with the Saints. But just going real quick to Chris Carson, like, this was his opportunity to shine. There was no penny breathing down his neck, and there it goes, another one. He just no ball
snaps
security.
CJ Procise out here.
That was pretty disappointing for Chris Carson owners.
And I think it was brought up on Twitter too. Like, this is what happens when the only redeeming quality about a player is the position that he's in. You can't name anything that he does well that you feel good about. It's just like he's in a position where there's no one else on the depth chart and the team loves to run the ball.
Yep.
And then he's like, well, you got to actually go out and run the ball a little bit.
So, real quick before I get to Russell Wilson, just on the MVP odds.
Sure.
We are going to have that Chiefs-Patriots game in whatever it is, week 11, 12, 13. It's somewhere late, so it'll have some big meaning in the AFC, you would think. And if the Patriots can have an undefeated regular season, or a 15-1 regular season, and the Chiefs go 12-4, call it, Brady at plus 800, just because let's say he gets 80% of the stats that Mahomes gets.
That's a lot if they're pulling.
Well, that's where he's right. He's right around there right now, I think. Mahomes has 1,195 yards, 10 TDs. Brady has 911 yards, 7 TDs. Neither have been picked off. Maybe, all right, fine. Call it 75% of the stats.
Hashtag math.
Well, let's say, what's that worth, though? If it's 70 to 80% of the stats with 16-0 versus 12-4, how does that factor
I think
in?
they need to go 16-0 then.
They have to go undefeated for Brady to beat out Mahomes.
I don't know. Like, I don't know how much we always want to buy into narratives, but Mahomes is the face of the league.
He is.
He is. They still can't stop talking about that no-look pass still to this day.
Well, last season's no-look pass will not factor into this season's MVP voting. I would hope.
I'm looking at Julian. This is me looking at Julian. He's saying he hopes. No, I think it's going to. I was waiting for the one to come because this is me. It's the no-look. Anyways, it got me hitting the mic again. I think it all comes into factor, and I know we've had. It's usually the case is the other way around, where someone goes out, has an MVP season, is better the next year, but they don't win it because their team isn't as good, or there's a perception that they need to be better.
Yeah.
But when Mahomes is just so head and shoulders above, and Brady playing on a team that has arguably the best defense he's ever had behind playing with him, hasn't given up a touchdown yet. There's a lot that's going to have to go into that 16-0 season.
Yeah.
You factor in the AFC East again being what the AFC East is, almost even worse now with what the Jets and Dolphins look like. I just don't think Brady's going to have to be an MVP. Mahomes is going to have to be an MVP and will be.
That's going to factor in.
Unless Russell Wilson, I'd go back to Russell Wilson.
Okay, so Russell Wilson is the second half of my take here. I don't have an MVP take on him, but my take is that at $6,100 in Arizona, he's my Monday morning top play at quarterback on this Week 4 slate, because indoors on the road against a secondary that's been terrible, against an offense that wants to play fast and be up-paced, or paced up, or however you want to say it, air raid offense that just hasn't been good, but they're still running around like crazy out there. Stafford, 31 DK points against them in Week 1. Lamar Jackson, 34 DK points against them in Week 2. Kyle Allen, 25 DK points against them in Week 3. Russell Wilson coming off 44 DK points. We've lost faith in Chris Carson in the running game. Penny is banged up. Hey, look how good Russell Wilson was in Week 3. Like you said, why don't we try and let him do that more? This is the perfect team to let him do that against in Week 4. I think Russell Wilson has a really high upside in Week 4. You can probably consider him a cash play, I would think, just because of how bad Arizona is and how bad Seattle's running game is, that he's going to have a lot of volume. So if you're not getting Mahomes at 7,500, which I haven't rostered Mahomes in cash yet in any of the first 3 weeks of the season, because I think there's been high 5,000, low 6,000 guys that have been viable. I think that Wilson makes for an awesome Week 4
I just
play.
need to Russ to go get an ego. Like, see that stat line, be like, all right, now let's go.
By the way, you know who you pair him with?
Tyler Lockett.
Nope.
Will Dissly.
Yep. Cardinals are still the worst team against opposing tight ends.
Compare him with both for whatever that would cost you. That whole stack: Russell Wilson, Tyler Lockett, Will Dissly. What is that? Like $15,000? That's not much.
Nope, that's a lot of bucks.
Well, all right, you're walking into that one
in terms of salary cap.
Stacking again. Just nothing but great transitions, folks, because we are now going to dive into our all-time stack. If you're new to the program, welcome. Thank you for making it this far. Each Monday, we're going to talk about an all-time stack from a professional team, going through their team history. Wednesdays, it's a little more fun. We kind of get off the rails with a different type of stack. But Mondays, we're here. We need to just have the structure of talking about a team because our brains are fried from Sunday. So we are going to talk about the Minnesota Vikings all-time stack. So
apologies to the Sacramento Kings.
Yes, it was going to be the Sacramento Kings. We realized, who the hell wants to talk about the Sacramento Kings right now? So we're going to talk about the Vikings instead. Bukes is all mad. He did a lot of research about Chris Webber. He was pronouncing Peja Stojakovic in front of a mirror.
Dang it.
Unfortunately, no, we're going to talk about the Vikings. So quarterback, running back, wide receiver, flex. Jules, start us off.
I thought this one was pretty easy. Hopefully we don't all completely agree.
I think I at least have one that I won't agree on. So
Okay, so I thought Fran Tarkenton was the name that came up at quarterback. However, I went with Dante Culpepper.
We got a debate. Let's go.
If we bring up the per-game numbers, Dante Culpepper threw for more yards per game, ran for more yards. I don't know if he ran for more yards per game, but was efficient on the ground in terms of, I think he averaged, during his time with the Vikings, about 5-point-something DK points per game on top of whatever he was doing through the air. I pretty much have the 98 Vikings with Adrian Peterson. I have Randy Moss and Chris Carter in there. You can't not have Moss. And Chris Carter, also an all-time pass catcher. And then Adrian Peterson was one of the best running backs of all time during his stint with the Vikings. I don't think any of us are going to fade AP here.
Sure, but two of those guys on there is why Dante Culpepper does not deserve to be on there.
Whoa.
Well,
wait
just
a minute.
throw it up to Randy Moss and okay.
Well, that's what he's going to do in my stack, too.
Give me Fran. He does it on through the air. He does it on the ground at a time where nobody else was doing it. He was like 6 feet tall. He was the first. He was Russell Wilson before there was a Russell Wilson. All about Fran Tarkenton. Did it on two teams as well.
Giants.
Did it for the Giants. Did it for the Vikings. Yeah, they never won the big game. Well, guess what? Neither did Dante Culpepper. Sorry, Morton Anderson or Gary Anderson. Sorry, Morton is the one who hit the kick for the Falcons.
What the hell's
going
going
back to the 15-1 Viking season there, but nah, to me it's Fran. Bukes, you with me on this?
That's what I had. And then it was Adrian Peterson. I mean, I don't know how you not have him there. I didn't realize 95.5 yards per game when he was with the Vikings is what he averaged in his career. That was mind-boggling.
I thought it was more than that.
Tavares Jackson is a has playoff experience because of Adrian Peterson. Like Joe Webb is a playoff quarterback because of Adrian Peterson. Let that sink in.
So Peterson, obviously Moss. I mean, I don't know. He was a great Viking. He was a wonderful Patriot. Can't forget that.
He also played on the Raiders.
Well, we don't care about that one.
And the Titans.
And then I had Robert Smith in my flex.
Okay.
His final 4 years, over 1,000 rushing yards in each one. Only played one full season, too. Like, always dealing with injuries. But even in the last 4 years when he was playing, averaging about 12, 13 games a season, over 1,000 rushing yards in each one. So that's quite the feat.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And, so I went Fran, Adrian Peterson, Randy Moss over Carter. Carter's, career numbers are insane.
Carter was borderline.
Because he was mostly, actually didn't start there, he's in Philly, but mostly all with the Vikings and, had just been around for so long. But, Randy Moss is just an all-time freak. Yep. You can't say he changed the game, because to change the game, then others would have to, emulate what he does, and you just can't emulate what he does when you're that tall and you have that speed. Not a lot of other people have that. And then I went off the board with a non-skill position player for my flex, Alan Page, one of only 2 defensive players to ever win NFL MVP. The nickname for the defense was the Purple People Eaters. Shouts out to great nicknames. Not much can be said. That 98 Vikings team, as great as it was, they didn't even have a nickname. What's Randy Moss's nickname? Gotta appreciate a good nickname.
You got mossed.
Yeah, all right. So a verb came out of it. I can give you credit for that. Went on to become a lawyer. The dude's doing really well outside of football. I think that it's my dad's favorite player, so I grew up knowing a lot about Alan Page.
I knew there had to be a connection somewhere.
Hey, it's my stack.
It is your stack. You can do whatever you want.
I'm putting my money on the line here. And he was also ridiculously good defensive player. Like I said, him and LT, the only defensive players to win MVP. So. I shouts out to the old Vikings. 4 Super Bowls, didn't win any of them. I can relate. I understand. But they at least got to the game, and those middle, late '90s Vikings, which would kill on DraftKings every week. That's similar to what we're talking about with the Chiefs these days. But you got to be able to at least get to the big game. IMO.
All right. So here's why my pivot play to Dante Culpepper is going to beat both of you guys. Here's the rushing yards.
We gave him time to check his computer.
Here's rushing between Fran Tarkenton and Dante Culpepper. Fran Tarkenton with the Vikings, 2,548 rushing yards and 22 touchdowns in 177 games. Dante Culpepper, 2,476 rushing yards and 29 touchdowns in 82 career games with the Vikings. He was doubling this guy up on the ground in terms of production.
When the defense is all running back, because Randy Moss and Chris Carter are running, there's.
But I have Randy Moss and Chris Carter. Dante Culpepper was twice the quarterback that Fran Tarkenton was on the ground, according to the numbers, which is how we score DraftKings points.
Well, that's false, because we shouldn't be going by the numbers, anyways.
What a great segment! You guys are both furiously researching here. I'm just drinking my sparkling water.
No free ads.
So I'm not telling
call
you
your vodka soda, whatever you want to call it, Beeps.
Let's talk about longevity, though.
Culpepper was also better through the air per game.
Please stop.
Look at that. Fran Tarkenton at 38 years old, still running for 15 yards.
If you want 38-year-olds, then just take Brett Favre.
We literally have 2 grown men who can research faster, and then they just throw out these obscure numbers. Oh, guess what he did over here? Guess what I did over here? And you know what?
Culpepper was a better fantasy quarterback than Fran Tarkenton.
And Fran Tarkenton only fumbled 7 times when he was 38.
You're not wearing your nice watch.
I'm wearing a nice watch.
That is not a nice watch.
You know what this watch is, though? The cloth, it is far more comfortable.
Okay.
For the audio viewers, let me give you a quick backtrack here. So the watch that Beats really loved last week, it was gold, and I won't say if it was real gold or not, because it wasn't. Really pinches the arm hair.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
And so that's why I don't wear it as much, because when I gesticulate a lot, when I talk, I'm not Italian, but I sometimes talk like it.
Sure.
It pinches you because it's got arm hair. But this one far more free flowing. I'm able to talk a lot, be a lot more.
Well, thank you.
It's a good everyday watch.
Thank you for persevering through that through last week. I enjoyed looking at it.
I knew you'd like it. I knew it threw you off your game because your Desert Island stack was terrible.
I heard a lot of good things about that, and I'm not going to name names, Tom Riggio, but he said if he was stuck on a deserted island, he would physically bring me. He didn't say any of you guys.
Because he's going to get hungry.
What? I mean...
Sorry, I'm reading a
he's
book
gonna
that
eat
involves
you.
Well, take that as you will.
You know, with me, it's all muscle. It's not a lot, you know.
Get a good shot over here. Okay, I think that's it for Panel B. What do you guys
Nope,
think?
it is not it because there is one more segment that's the, unfortunate thing about having structure. We do have one more thing to get to because we have to talk about our picks from last week and then segue that into a Monday Night Football discussion. So picks, let's talk about how we did. Let's bring up the big board because we'll start with Bukes.
Two of us
because
are
guess
undefeated.
what? Bukes is the only one who didn't go 2-0. He went 1-1.
So what?
Unfortunate.
I don't care. I shot my shot and it didn't work out.
Well,
The Chargers should have won that game.
All right, so let's recap here. Bukes had Jacksonville plus 1.5 against Tennessee. Good job.
Thank you.
You
That was
started
nice.
the week off nice Thursday.
Very nice.
Los Angeles minus 3.5. Did not turn out that well.
BS.
It also said at Detroit, which was false. It was actually they were actually at home against Houston. But
Well, see, it's nullified. I'm 1-0. The information was wrong.
hey, we don't have copy editors here yet.
Just
at
like
the
if a
Panel
slot
Beat
machine
Podcast.
malfunctions, you don't get paid. So that's incorrect.
All
So
right,
I'm actually
enough
1-0.
about the losers. Let's talk about the winners. Julian, Detroit plus 6.5 versus Philly. Way to go on that. Miami team total under 13.5. We knew it was too high.
We knew it. It was too high at 10.5,
Yeah.
which is right around where
That
it
was with a
closed.
missed field goal too. Like
Yep, that helped.
never scored. And then myself, crowning achievement here. Cincinnati plus 6 at Buffalo. And I even called it on Twitter too that the Bills would win, but the Bengals
did say
covered.
that.
That is what happened. And then my great parlay, Dallas minus 21.5. They cover the spread, but the under of 47.5 hits, which was a lot of fun because I actually thought it was 37.5, and I was really excited because it was 37 was the total, but I actually had 10 points there. Enough about that, though. Enough gloating. We'll keep the record going throughout the season as we all go under 500 and then just start taking really easy money line picks. We've got the Redskins. We've got the Bears tonight. If you're playing Showdown, where are you starting your lineup?
I mean, it's such a...
With a sigh. Yes, that is
With the
true.
Bears defense?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I was actually going to go. Like, it's... Alex has just been attacked.
Is there a bug in here?
I was being a professional and holding out till we got to you guys to talk. Yes, something flew into my eye. Please proceed. Don't let me keep you.
Just literally looked over and he was like
All
being
right.
attacked. It's a tough slate. It's a tough game. Like, Bears defense might be a captain spot.
Yeah, I don't
Legitimately.
mind that. Bears defense or
Scary
Allen
Terry.
Robinson.
Scary Terry.
Or David Montgomery.
No.
I don't
Montgomery's
mind
a
David
captain.
Montgomery. He picked it up. I would rather play Bears defense. That's why I said it
Yeah.
first.
And if you captain Bears defense, is 9,300, which is very cheap, especially for a captain spot, because captain spot obviously is more salary. But Scary Terry over with the Redskins has been looking great. 16 targets the last 2 weeks, 10 receptions, 187 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kind of looks like Case Keenum's go-to guy. So I kind of like that one there. Case
think he's
Keenum's actually looked pretty
overpriced.
good, to be honest.
McLaurin's overpriced. Think about it.
No,
Like,
this is captain pricing. He's 8,600
well,
normally.
I'm just saying, even in relative to everyone else, looking where he is on the list.
Yeah,
you
but
know?
he's the number one option there.
He's, I
Yeah,
guess.
but I don't. What's,
I would, I mean, maybe I would just
He
put
just
the
got
defense
attacked,
a lot
so
higher. Yeah, it's going into my brain.
I mean, so you know what you do with these games, just like we did with Thursday night?
kickers.
Kickers and defense.
Sure. But I'm talking first half unders here
Oh, here we
9-0.
because primetime games are now 9-0 with the first half unders.
Nice.
And even with Jacksonville scoring those 2 early touchdowns, we got a nice windy rainstorm in Jacksonville, and that first half under held. And it hit on Sunday night in an ugly first half between the Browns and Rams. So until one of these doesn't hit, I'm going to keep mentioning it, that
Go ahead.
primetime first half unders are 9-0, and we have the Bears and Redskins on Monday Night Football at 20.5.
Yeah,
Just
that
keep-
feels like a easy
just
under.
keep going.
Yeah, that feels like.
I'm not doing anything fancy, and I'm not going to say anything about either of the two teams. As long as it's undefeated, I'm just going to keep saying primetime game first half unders are undefeated.
Alex is still.
And then once it's 10-0 tomorrow, then on Wednesday we'll be talking about how the Eagles and Packers is 22.5 on Thursday Night Football. That one could pick up a little bit.
I actually like those. I do like those. You done with your Vikings research over there? He's literally still looking.
I'm really trying to find an angle here for my boy Fran.
Forget it.
How about over 3,000 yards in a season with only 14 games? Dante.
It's been a long podcast. Please.
I almost just looked up Dante Culpepper's season by season numbers, but I'm not going to.
1962 led the league with an 89-yard completion.
I'm going to tell you something.
No one else did that in 1962.
If I wasn't doing another show in 15 minutes, I'd literally put my headphones down and I'd leave. Let it be known for the record.
3 out of his final 4 years, he led the NFL in completions. Age 35, 36, and 38 led the NFL in completions.
I'm just stalling here while I open
up.
Hey everyone,
a reminder that odds and lines are subject to change. Please see website for actual odds. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and would like some help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Any other housekeeping items?
No.
Dante Culpepper.
How do you forget about
2,000. He had almost 4,000 passing yards, 33 touchdowns.
I already said Kashner.
Did you?
I snuck it in earlier.
We'll have to roll the tape.
Dante Culpepper, 2004, 4,717 yards, 39 tuds.
I'm leaving.
How many games?
16. Well, take two games off. He's still a mile ahead.
I rest my case. That is going to do it for the Panel B podcast.
Bucks is out.
Bucks is long gone. Julian still here, but more or less checked out. That means I'm the last one sitting. That means I won the argument. All-time stack. It is Fran Tarkington, Adrian Peterson, Randy Moss, Alan Page. Until next time, we out.